This podcast is being recorded in Honolulu, Hawaii. I acknowledge that the land I live and work on, known as Kaka'ako, is part of the unceded Aina of the Kanaka Maoli, the indigenous people of Hawaii. I'm humbled and grateful to be a guest in the Hawaiian Kingdom. May this conversation honor the wisdom of this land and the spirit of aloha that lives here. Hey, beautiful humans, welcome back to Conversations with Thomas, where we explore the big, messy, magical work of living a heart-centered life. I'm your host, Thomas Kevin Dolan. My pronouns are he and him. And today we're taking a look at something that just might shift your relationships in the most tender and powerful ways. It's called the Platinum Rule. You've probably heard of the Golden Rule. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Solid advice, right? But what if it's not enough? What if it assumes that everyone wants what you want? And that's what the Golden Rule does. It assumes that everyone wants what you want. Enter the Platinum Rule. Treat others the way they want to be treated. It sounds deceptively simple, but it's actually a relationship game changer. I really think this is heart-expanding stuff. And yes, we've got the science, the stories, and a gentle practice to bring it all to life. This rule isn't just about being nice. It's about differentiation. Recognizing that others may need things you don't, or express love, safety, and respect in ways that feel or may feel totally foreign to you. And perhaps it's also about reverence, the spiritual practice of honoring another's soul's unique expression. Imagine being able to be reverent to those in your life. Imagine being able to ask them, how can I support you? And really listening to what it is that they need, and then allowing yourself to actually give that to them. So what is the Platinum Rule? And of course, let's start with the basics. The Golden Rule centers you and your preferences. The Platinum Rule shifts the center to them, to the person you're actually in connection with. Therefore, it requires empathy, attunement, and a willingness to ask. It would be this: what do you need? How do you feel most loved, supported, or understood? In other words, the Platinum Rule is loving. No, more specifically, the Platinum Rule it's love with its listening ears on. But more than that, it's love as a spiritual practice, a devotion to showing up in ways that actually honor somebody else's truth, honors another's truth. Psychologist and leadership expert Dr. Tony Aslandra popularized the Platinum Rule in business settings. But emotional intelligence researchers have since connected it to stronger relationships, better conflict resolution, and increased trust, not just at work, but in our most intimate lives. Dr. Kristen Neff does a lot of work with compassion, reminds us that empathy isn't just a feeling, it's an action. When you see someone suffering and respond with care in a way that's most supportive to them, that's empathy in action. That's actually the Platinum Rule. And here's the thing. The rule isn't just for personal relationships. Imagine what it could do if we applied it on a broader scale. Let's say our political climate. In a time of division, the Platinum Rule invites nuance. It invites us to move from performative allyship to actual solidarity, to get curious instead of defensive, to honor difference without needing to fix or erase it. I think that's how bridges are built. Not with sameness, but with spaciousness, with soul, with spirit, with what I call sacred listening. It's actually listening from your heart. Let me toss in a little bit of science, right? The sciencey part. Research on empathy and interpersonal neurobiology, particularly from folks like Dr. Dan Siegel, shows that when we attune to someone else's emotional state and respect their needs and perspectives, we build what's called interpersonal resonance. That's kind of fancy speak for connection that doesn't feel like emotional guesswork. Let me bring this down to earth and share a story from my book, my memoir, Little Fag, A Story of Self-Acceptance and Healing. In chapter 7, called A Willingness to Do Some Reflecting, beginning on page 252, I share an additional story from the unlearning about the healing of a relationship with a former partner. My family taught me to cut people out once a relationship ended, especially romantic ones, to cut them out of my life. I watched siblings do that with relationships that were really important to them. Once it was done, I never saw those folks again. And yet I chose something different. I chose to stay connected, to love in a new way, to be friends. It wasn't always easy. There were moments of pain, of doubt, but we kept choosing love, not the romantic kind, but a deeper, more resilient friendship rooted in mutual care and what I now recognize as soul level support. Here's a passage from the story. His energy is effusive. From the moment I met him in 2002 in Sydney, Australia, I realized his light shone from a place of innocence. I've learned to not put an X through anybody in my life. They've all come to me for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. They've happened for me and not to me. Practicing the platinum rule in this case meant meeting him not as my former partner, but as the person he is now, with respect, with honesty, and with love on his terms. My current husband, he and I were once jokingly called Vancouver's favorite throuple. As we walked towards a concert we were about to enter, all of us laughed. We thought it was hilarious. But what it really showed me was how far we'd all come, choosing love, connection, and friendship over fear and this notion of what I call a societal script. I was no longer in relationship with him. Therefore, societal script is get rid of him. What I'm really proud of and what is really rich for me is not only having him as my best friend, but also from time to time as the three of us are walking, it might be here in Honolulu, it might be in Vancouver. I'm walking on my own for some reason. The two of them are behind me. So imagine a former partner, right, with your husband. I look behind and I smile. And I say to the divine, to the universe, to spirit, I'm so grateful that I have this powerful connection of love. I love that I can share this with my husband, and that my husband and my best friend, my former partner, have a really amazing relationship. That is the story of the platinum rule in action. It's about seeing someone in their fullness and being willing to relate to them in the way they need. People from all walks of life are catching on to this shift. Dr. Thema Bryant, who I'm just beginning to really appreciate the wisdom from this woman. Love is not control. Love is not manipulation. Love is not silence or dismissal. Love is nurturing presence, truth, and care. And this is a woman who is a psychologist, also a spiritual leader. I've just bought her book. This quote speaks directly to the transformative power of the golden rule, the transformative power of the platinum rule, excuse me. It asks us to dismantle old narratives of love, ones that might have been rooted in fear, no doubt dominance, or emotional withdrawal, and rebuild them with intention. Real love, she goes on to say, the kind that aligns with the platinum rule actually requires humility. It's not about reshaping someone to fit your comfort zone or your expectations. It's about meeting them where they are, honoring who they are, and showing up in ways that feel supportive to them. How novel is that? Queer communities, and I'm really proud of this, my queer community, model this beautifully, often redefining family, relationships, and love in ways that are actually rooted in authenticity over obligation. In many queer spaces, the concept of chosen family is a living, breathing example of the platinum rule. When biological families can't or won't offer the love and acceptance someone needs, queer folks often create what I call a new constellation of care. A new constellation of care. Oh, I love that. These are families built not on bloodlines, but on consent, on connection, and intentional love. Here's what that can look like. A trans woman may be rejected by her birth family, but finds a circle of friends who call every day after her surgery, who celebrate her identity with joy, who ask how she wants to be supported rather than assuming. These friends don't show up because it's expected. They show up because they see her and want to love her in the ways she needs to be loved. I think kids get this intuitively. I've watched my grandnephew Gabriel, right? I've watched him interact with cousins. It's this idea of when he gets a sense that one of them is having a bad day, he doesn't offer them kind of his favorite snack. He asks them for what they need, a juice box, a cookie, and then, of course, he adds a hug. That's the platinum rule. That is the platinum rule. So let's dive into a little practice here. I call it the platinum swap. It's a simple 10-minute connection ritual to practice mutual care on others' terms. So step one is kind of you setting the scene. And I'm going to invite you to do this, to sit down with a friend or someone you have love for. Phones off, of course. Tea or snacks optional, but I'm going to encourage it. Step two, this is where you're going to ask and listen. Take turns asking each other these questions. What's one thing someone's done for you recently that made you feel deeply cared for? Your job is to listen closely. No interruptions. What's one thing someone's done for you recently that made you feel deeply cared for? No fixing, just receive. Perhaps you want to make a note. Step three, I call this care language. And here's where you ask, when you're going through something tough, what's the most helpful thing someone that can actually do for you? You might learn that your friend prefers space over advice or a silly meme over a deep chat. And here's the swap. Each of you commits to doing one thing this week based on what you just heard. Write it down if you need to. No pressure to get it perfect. This is your opportunity to simply give it a whirl, give it a try. And there's a fifth step, and it's what I call follow up with feeling. A few days later, you're going to check in with this person. How did that feel for you? This is a beautiful way to build trust and tweak how you show up for each other over time. Dr. Laura Berman, as a therapist and an educator, and Dr. Berman puts it this way. The platinum rule forces you to consider that others have a different reality than yours. And that's not just okay, it's essential. That's not just okay, it's essential. Let's sit with that for a second. What she's really saying is that true connection begins with a humility to acknowledge that your way of seeing, loving, or healing is not universal. We each walk through the world with different wounds, wiring, and ways of making meaning. The platinum rule invites us to honor that, not as an inconvenience, but as a sacred truth. So instead, you sit down eye to eye and ask, what's it like to be you? Then you listen, and you actually love from there. I think in our relationship lives, that's how bridges are built, right? That's how bridges are built. Here's some closing thoughts. The platinum rule isn't about perfection. It's not about you getting this perfect. It's actually about something that we all long for, this notion of wanting connection. It's about presence. It's a practice of asking, noticing, adjusting, not out of obligation, but out of love. It's looking at the people in your life and saying, I want to love you in the way you most feel loved. And hey, while you're at it, offer yourself the same. Ask yourself, what do I need? And see what comes back. Because the platinum rule isn't just for relationships. It's actually for your own healing, your own sacred return. And of course, if you've been listening to my podcast, this notion of your ability to apply the platinum rule to your outer experience, to friends, to family, to your partner, is most strong when you can actually do your internal work with the platinum rule, right? Where you can ask yourself, what do I need? And listen and feel for what comes back. It can be a part of your sacred return. If this episode sparked something for you, I'd love to hear about it. Send me a message. Maybe even share this with somebody who needs a gentle nudge, or leave a review if you're feeling generous. And a gentle reminder, these conversations are here to inspire and support, but they're not a replacement for professional care. So if you're navigating through some tough mental stuff, I want to encourage you to reach out to a licensed therapist or healthcare provider. And also, this podcast is created with a lot of love, lived experience, and just enough research to keep things curious. And of course, with the tech magic of my wonderful husband, Adam Ma, my co-executive producer. Until next time, my friends, take a breath, soften your shoulders, and remember, you're doing better than you think. Thanks so much for listening to Conversations with Thomas.